Freeze for a moment and look straight into the idea that most people carry without question. Is goodness a shield that keeps trouble at bay, or a soft signal that invites pressure from every side? Is kindness a fortress or a doorway that any passerby can enter? Is generosity a path to loyalty, or a habit that quietly teaches others to expect more tomorrow? Is honesty a magnet for respect, or a mirror that some will crack to avoid seeing themselves? If any of those assumptions feel comfortable, prepare to disturb them. The common tale says goodness equals safety, yet unguarded goodness behaves like open flame, warm at first touch, then consuming whatever stands too close, including your plans, your alliances, and your long-term goals, once there is no structure to contain it or judgment to direct it. History recorded this pattern with relentless clarity. Niccolò Machiavelli studied leaders who were mild in posture yet easy to corner, patrons who gave generously yet were repaid with plots, benefactors who offered second chances and received second betrayals, and he mapped the logic behind their misfortune with an unblinking pen. The lesson is not that virtue is empty. The lesson is that uncalculated virtue is expensive in ways that are hard to see until the bill is due. The price arrives as lost leverage, eroded authority, and a reputation for endless availability that encourages those who benefit to lean harder. The following blueprint explains the hidden costs that attach to naive goodness and the method for turning the same qualities into durable strength that protects value, attracts sincere allies, and deters casual predation without poisoning the soul. Clarity first. No one is being invited to cruelty, deception, or harm. The invitation is to disciplined mercy, to conscious fairness, and to generosity that is placed with care so it multiplies outcomes rather than draining the source. In any environment where competition exists, from offices to families to markets, a visible lamb draws wolves. Harsh wording is unnecessary to describe that reality. It is enough to notice patterns. Those who signal that they never resist will be tested until they do. Those who never withdraw resources will be asked until they cannot. Those who explain every decision will be argued with until the explanation becomes permission to argue again. Strategic goodness keeps the heart intact while telling the world where the limits live and what happens when they are crossed. Begin with the first truth that escapes many kind people. Predictable helpfulness feels safe to the giver and safe to everyone around the giver, which is exactly why it becomes exposure. When your default answer is yes, there is no meaningful cost to asking you for more. When your boundaries are soft, others do not need to examine their own. When your schedule flexes for every emergency, your effort stops reading as sacrifice and begins to read as the new baseline. Consider the skilled supervisor who covered shifts, shielded the team from upper management, and volunteered for all tricky assignments. The group adored that person. Leadership passed them by for someone who was firm, not merely friendly, because the room confused service with subordination. In many rooms, warmth without edge is read as permission, not authority. Machiavelli captured the pattern with animal symbols that still travel well. The fox detects snares because it watches for unnatural quiet in the grass. The lion ends pursuit because it carries a credible threat. Without alertness, strength walks into traps. Without strength, alertness cannot alter outcomes. The lesson is not to snarl at every breeze. The lesson is to pair discernment with consequence so you are difficult to corner and expensive to pressure. People often try to survive as compliant sheep inside competitive herds, then wonder why their grace invites tests rather than gratitude. A useful anchor for the mind reads like this, and you can speak it to yourself until it becomes reflexive. I choose measured goodness, I guard my energy, and I decline assignments that require me to abandon myself to keep others comfortable. Now turn to the generosity loop that inflates quickly, then bursts. Giving sparks applause the first time, earns warm praise the second time, and starts feeling ordinary by the 5th or 10th time, which is the moment entitlement begins to form in the shadows. The brain normalizes repeated rewards. What arrived as a gift arrives later as routine, then as necessity. When the faucet slows, the crowd rarely recalls the bucket you lifted for months. They notice only the empty glass today. The paradox is simple. Kindness increases affection in the short run and dependency in the long run, unless it teaches responsibility alongside relief. Give without guardrails, and the people most affected will be the ones least prepared to stand without your continual lift, which leaves them anxious when you are absent and indignant when you are selective. Psychology describes a quiet gear change that supports this spiral. Human perception adapts to pleasures and conveniences with speed. Satisfaction spikes, then flattens as attention recalibrates to the new normal. Which means yesterday's extraordinary help becomes today's minimum standard. And any reduction looks like loss even when the baseline is still above what existed before you started giving. That is why one refusal glows like a signal flare while 100 favors fade into background light. In workplaces, the employee who stays late daily stops collecting thanks and starts collecting expectations, then risks a not committed label for leaving at the posted hour once. In partnerships, the person who always yields becomes difficult the day they ask for equal footing. These are not rare exceptions. They are the default trajectory of unstructured generosity. The practical response is not to close your hand. It is to make your help count. Scarcity creates weight. Concentration creates impact. Machiavelli advised that benefits land best when delivered in well-timed portions, not as an open flood that invites carelessness. Translate that into daily choices. Reserve favors for moments with leverage. Spread support across time so appreciation can take root. Tie assistance to explicit responsibilities so the receiver rises with the gift rather than leaning on the giver. You can even state your stance with clean language that respects everyone involved. The affirmation is simple and strong. Say it aloud and let your planning reflect it. I give with intent. I choose recipients thoughtfully. And my yes remains valuable because it appears when it matters and rests when it does not. There is a second curtain many never pull back. Audiences and institutions often respond to presentation first and substance second. People cannot read motives. They can read posture, pattern, and outcomes. That is why durable influence requires the appearance of virtue in public and the practice of judgment in private. This is not fakery. It is sequencing. A physician uses a scalpel that can harm in the hands of a fool and heal in the hands of a professional. The act looks sharp, even severe, yet the purpose is preservation. Leaders who endure smile in open spaces because morale matters and make hard allocations behind closed doors because arithmetic governs constraints. Mercy is shown where it carries discipline within it. Strength is shown where it discourages waste, confusion, and petty conflict that would swallow everyone's time. Perception shapes options. If observers read softness as your permanent setting, they will root hard problems elsewhere, but they will also root their burdens to your desk. If they read firmness without cruelty, they will consult you for real decisions and think twice before adding weight to your day. Machiavelli summarized it crisply. Many see what you appear to be. Very few experience what you actually are. Control the signals. Choose words, timelines, and enforcement that communicate reliability, thoughtful resolve, and an unmistakable floor below which you will not step. You do not need anger to achieve this. Consistency does more work than volume. A short sentence spoken early does more work than a long apology late. Try this anchor as well, because repetition builds posture. I curate my presence, I set the tone, and I let my standards speak for themselves. Resource arithmetic sits beneath every noble intention. Time is fixed on the calendar. Energy fluctuates, then runs out. Money and attention move where you place them, then cannot be used elsewhere. Many kind people ignore these facts until exhaustion forces a reckoning. Air travel drills in a rule that maps cleanly to life. Secure your own oxygen first, then assist the person next to you. The instruction is not selfish. It is structural. Without a functioning helper, both parties are at greater risk. Translate that into daily practice. Track the hours you spend solving other people's emergencies. Count the projects you postponed. Notice how resentment grows in the dark when you consistently replace your priorities with theirs. Unbounded yes converts a good person into a depleted person who eventually needs rescue, which helps no one for long. Command and stewardship cannot be outsourced. Machiavelli's counsel linked authority to self-rule. Those who wish to be obeyed must know how to command, and command begins at home. Decide where your labor is best invested. Decide how many favors fit this month's budget. Decide which requests align with your mission and which belong to somebody else's learning curve. Then behave like a reliable steward of your own assets. Declining is not betrayal. It is continuity. You can make the refusal graceful. Try phrases that hold the line without heat. This is not on my plate this week. I am not the right person for that task. I can help for 20 minutes, not 2 hours. If the same person returns with the same assumption, repeat yourself without argument. Boundaries teach faster than explanations. Turn virtue into a toolkit instead of a costume you wear all day. Honesty reveals when it grows trust and confronts when concealment would multiply harm. Kindness encourages when someone is carrying their weight and withdraws when kindness is enabling drift. Generosity opens doors for people who walk through them and stays shut for people who camp on the threshold. Strategy does not poison virtue. It strengthens it by attaching actions to outcomes. Help the right people a lot rather than everyone a little. Say yes where your contribution multiplies and where your presence shifts a system rather than patching holes that will reappear tomorrow. The results become measurable. Your help feels rare, so it is valued. Your focus avoids dilution, so it lands. Your selectivity signals self-respect, so respect returns from others who understand signals. A simple decision screen keeps the compass straight under pressure. Before accepting any new burden, ask 3 questions. Alignment. Does this request advance the mission you declared for yourself this season, or does it only relieve someone's discomfort today? Leverage. Will your unique skills or position change the outcome significantly? Or could a capable person with less opportunity cost handle it just as well? Reciprocity. Will this interaction reinforce a culture of mutual support and learning, or does it teach the other party that your time arrives without price and without gratitude? If a request scores low on all 3, it earns a polite rejection. If it scores high on 2, consider it seriously. If it scores high on all 3, deliver excellence and attach clear terms so the gift produces durable lift rather than repeat dependency. Language makes posture visible, so prepare phrases in advance and keep them ready. Here are examples that fit most rooms. I can contribute a brief consult, then I will hand it back to you for execution. My window for pro bono help is full this quarter. Let us revisit next month. I appreciate the trust. Here is a resource that fits your need better than I do. I am available for 1 iteration of feedback, not a rolling review. Notice the structure. Firm boundary, short rationale if needed, redirection when appropriate, and an exit that leaves dignity intact. These sentences protect capacity without souring relationships. Over time, people who value you learn how to ask well. People who only valued your endless availability drift away to search for another soft wall to lean on. Design systems that institutionalize kindness so you are not negotiating from scratch each time. Set office hours for advice rather than absorbing random calls. Create a short guide you can send to common askers so they arrive prepared. Allocate a fixed budget for gifts, introductions, and emergency assists. Then stop when the ledger is closed. Rotate who benefits so the same circle does not become the permanent drain on your attention. Replace repeated rescuing with a playbook that teaches others to rescue themselves. Systematized mercy is not colder mercy. It is mercy that survives the year and is still available when a true crisis appears. Signals and consequences complete the picture. A boundary that is never enforced is a decorative sentence. Choose a small, credible consequence and apply it calmly when lines are crossed. If a teammate bypasses your process, reset the task to the correct flow and extend the timeline. If a friend repeatedly treats your time as infinite, schedule them weeks out rather than days. If a client ignores scope, offer a paid change order instead of absorbing the work. None of this requires anger. It requires steadiness. The second time you apply a consequence, people realize the rule is real. Respect follows structure more reliably than it follows speeches about fairness or pleas for understanding. Revisit the purpose behind all of this. Strategic goodness is not an elaborate shield for fragile egos. It is the architecture that lets your best qualities live long enough to matter. Selectivity ensures that your care lands where it grows capacity. Boundaries ensure that your patience is not spent on those who have no intention of standing. Concentration ensures that your yes changes outcomes in visible ways that inspire others to carry more of their own load. You are not here to be liked by everyone who benefits from your softness. You are here to be faithful to the mission you claim and valuable to the people who will build with you rather than build on you. Close the loop with 3 grounded anchors that turn into habits when repeated. Speak them without drama and let your calendar agree with your mouth. I choose strategic goodness because it preserves my impact. I protect my energy because depletion helps no one. I give with intent because focus creates change. The world does not punish kindness. It punishes predictability without boundaries and virtue without judgment. Adopt the fox's eyes so you notice snares before they tighten. Carry the lion's presence so casual tests end quickly. Keep your heart, sharpen your method, and your goodness will stop leaking strength and start radiating power that lasts. Pause and run a quick check that cuts through sentiment. Does this request fit the mission you set for yourself, or does it pull you off course for a momentary applause line? Can you carry it without draining sleep, focus, or money you need for priorities that actually move you forward? Will the requester honor your effort with respect for your time? Or will they treat your contribution like an endless tap? If any light turns red, the reply is a gentle yet unshakable no. When a light is green, answer fully and show total presence. Put real craft on the table. Build something that stands when you step away. In doing so, each yes becomes weighty and memorable, not cheap and forgettable. Your help then writes loyalty into the relationship instead of teaching. Entitlement to return for free refills that never end. An older Florentine observer wrote that a promise belongs to yesterday's context, and today's reality may call for a revised course. The heart of that lesson is simple. Saying yes in one direction sometimes means saying no somewhere else. Care for your household may require firm lines at the office. Guarding a long project can require disappointing those who want to spend your weekend on their emergencies. What matters is not selfishness. What matters is effectiveness that preserves the good you intend across time. Use this sentence as an anchor. I choose effective kindness. It sets the frame. Your task is to guide help, not scatter it. Your duty is to protect the garden so fruit ripens. Strategy does this work without poisoning the soil. Be civil, be clear, be steady. See through the soft glow that surrounds the word gratitude. Thanks fades. The favors that felt extraordinary on day 1 slide into routine by month 6 and harden into assumption by the end of the year. What began as thank you so much becomes you always do this and then flips into why didn't you handle it? The neighbor you carried across 2 moves stops calling to ask and simply informs you of the truck arrival. If you are unavailable, you are recast as uncaring. This is not proof that people are monsters. It is a reminder that minds normalize what repeats. The first gift is rare. The 10th gift is ordinary. The 20th gift is a rule. That is the cycle. Notice it early. Shape it with limits that keep appreciation alive and prevent duty from mutating into quiet resentment on both sides. Constancy and kindness changes how others read your availability. The person who says yes on reflex is treated as an automatic resource. The more you appear on demand, the less anyone notices the cost you carried. If you give and never request balance, the room quietly assumes you pay no price. That is the trap behind the glow. Doing more good deeds does not always produce deeper gratitude. It often produces thicker expectation. Those who appreciate you most may be the ones who receive well-placed help once or twice. Those who assume you simply exist to smooth their path are often the ones who received the most. Train the pattern you want. Ask for reciprocity. Encourage independence. Tie your support to steps they must take. End the endless loop by teaching capability, not just giving relief. A different line from the Florentine advises that people judge what they see now more clearly than what they felt long ago. Today's action is vivid. Yesterday's sacrifice dissolves. Translate that into practice. Do not rely on memories of all the times you stayed late, covered a shift, or lent cash. Rely on a present posture that communicates standards without anger. Speak a clear boundary before the calendar fills. Place help inside windows that you control. Let your absence teach skill instead of pushing you into permanent savior mode. The eye reads signals. Stand up straight. Keep your word count short. Make choices consistent with your stated limits. Over time, even noisy rooms learn to measure you by the line you hold, not by the speeches you deliver about being overwhelmed again and again. Shift attention to results rather than motives. The world lives with the effects of what you do, not the purity of what you meant. A golden intention that yields little is still a light that never warmed a room. History tends to engrave the names of builders and reformers who produced outcomes, not the names of pleasant companions who avoided friction and left everything as they found it. Decide which memory you prefer. Nice without change evaporates. Firm with fairness leaves stone in the ground. Real goodness focuses on outcomes that endure. The parent who enforces boundaries is not cruel. They are preparing a citizen. The instructor whose grading is exacting is not harsh. They are shaping competence. The manager who requires standards is not unreasonable. They are protecting the team's future. Study the split between comfort and growth. Polite smiles keep peace for a day. Honest feedback shapes the next decade. People who aim to be liked avoid storms and preserve the status quo. People who aim to be useful walk through weather and remove the root problem. Nice copies the patterns that already exist. Good creates an alternative that serves more people for longer. If your current mode of helping produces no change, revise the mode. Stop asking whether they will approve you. Start asking whether the outcome will be better 6 months from now. Speak hard truths with care. Resolve conflict instead of hiding it under carpet corners. When intention collides with result, measure by result. Say it out loud until it is habit. I focus on outcomes. Then let your calendar and your choices agree. Legacy and survival travel together. You cannot carve a lasting mark if you collapse before the work matures. Endurance is not a rival to kindness. It is the scaffold that lets kindness reach higher floors. Think of recognizable figures who altered industries or communities. Many were demanding, exacting, and unwilling to flatter. What kept their contributions alive was not gentleness alone. It was stamina, strategy, and the willingness to say no to distractions that would have emptied the tank. The warmest hearts cannot lift others if they are crushed by opportunists. The most generous hands cannot give if the purse is empty. The clearest voices cannot tell the truth if they are silenced. Survive first, grow next. Then shape the mark you wish to leave while you still have tools in your hands. The same Florentine famously argued that affection is a thin rope if respect is absent. Translated for everyday use, the lesson is clear. Popularity without credibility collapses under weight. Respect carries decisions across rough ground. You do not need to choose between being principled and being strong. Aim for both. If a trade becomes necessary, choose spine first because strength lets you choose principle when the moment is costly. Weakness with perfect intentions still produces loss. Craft your stance so it projects steadiness. Speak softly, enforce calmly. Write terms that are simple enough to remember and apply them without drama. Then people learn the rule. Appreciation follows consistency better than it follows pleading. Impact arrives when you become a person whose no means no and whose yes builds. Gather the lessons into a single frame. Unplanned goodness is a net that catches you rather than those you try to save. It invites misuse, drains reserves, inflates expectations, and blocks the very impact you hope to deliver. Planned goodness becomes an instrument of survival and change. It directs help where it multiplies, times support so it teaches, and keeps capacity intact so you remain present for the long game. The price of naivete is heavy. The reward of strategy is compounding. You now have a clear map. Use boundaries as valves, not walls. Use praise sparingly so it retains force. Use aid as curriculum, not as an endless subsidy. When you do this, your contribution stops leaking. It starts accumulating. You move from pleasant helper to builder whose work stands. Make a decision while the ideas are fresh. Continue with the old pattern that treats kindness as an open bar, or adopt the new pattern that treats kindness as a well-placed investment. This choice sets the next year's arc. Will goodness drain you, or will you train it to carry weight? Decide, then prove the decision with small moves that repeat. Set one new boundary this week. Decline one mismatch politely. Accept one project that aligns with your map and give it excellence from start to finish. Share this frame with a friend who needs it. When two people live by it, culture starts to turn. The habit becomes normal. The load gets lighter. The results grow durable. Strategic virtue is not a posture for cameras. It is a discipline that guards value and spreads it farther. Carry an image that keeps your role clear in noisy rooms. The world often behaves like a field with prowling risks and scattered flocks. Do not volunteer to be the prey that hopes for mercy. Stand as a steady guide who protects with wisdom, planning, and measured force when it is required. A guide tends the group, faces danger without drama, and saves strength for the hours that count. That is the model for durable kindness. Not weakness, not rage, but clarity, structure, and courage. With that trio, goodness stops dissolving under pressure and starts shaping outcomes in your favor and in favor of those entrusted to you. Speak the final anchor until it feels natural. I master strategic goodness. Let it govern your no. Let it energize your yes. Then watch respect and results arrive.